Awesome. Well, I want to thank absolutely everyone from the Wall Street Silver community. We have a very special guest with us from Vangold. We have James Anderson. James, how are you doing today?
Excellent, excellent, gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me on.
Awesome, awesome. Jim, do you want to start us off and get right into the questions?
Hey, James, thank you for coming on. Your stock has been in the news lately, obviously, for the big news that somehow you managed to land Eric Sprott as an investor in your company.
Right.
You got to tell us about it. What happened to make Eric Sprott interested in Vangold, and what's going on in Mexico with you guys?
Well, yeah, Mr. Sprott, as an investor, is always a great idea. These public companies need investors, and if you're going to have an investor, you may as well have it a guy like Eric Sprott. He's very knowledgeable, he's very wealthy, and so he can take a large position in a company like ours and be happy about it. The reason I think that he's excited about it is that our company is on a path to become Mexico's newest silver and gold producer, which we anticipate that being done in the fall. And we're able to do that because we're purchasing a mine and a mill from Endeavor Silver that's in Guanajuato, Mexico, that's very close to a project that we've been working on for the last couple of years. So the synergies of those two properties together with the ready-made mill and ready-made tailings facility, as I said, there's a lot of synergies there, and I think that Mr. Sprott has the ability to be able to identify that.
Well, so as I understand it, there's two mines in the area. Can everyone see the map there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's dive into this as to what's going on here. Which project did you owned one of these and you're acquiring the other and putting them together? That's my understanding of what's going on here.
That's right. So on this map, Penguico, all of the stuff in red is the stuff that we currently own, and the stuff that we're going to be closing on with the big transaction with Endeavor here in just the next few days is in blue. So Penguico, you can see that, the smaller property in red, that was a very high-grade mine 110 years ago. At that time, the property was in a company that was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So it was quite a big deal in the area. And then El Cubo, which you can see there, El Cubo has been in production on and off, but mostly on for about 200 years. And in fact, that kind of dovetails into just, a couple things that we can say about the area generally, Jim. This is one of North America's oldest silver and gold mining camps. The Spanish figured out that there was high-grade silver and gold here within about 60 years of Columbus sailing. So in the 1540s, they were mining here, and it's been an important mining camp ever since.
So the obvious question is, why is Endeavor selling this to you? I mean, why aren't they trying to make this work themselves?
Right. And obviously, a lot of people ask us that question. Endeavor paid a lot of money for El Cubo in 2012, which was the last time that this project changed hands. So Endeavor paid 200 million US dollars for El Cubo. We're paying 15. Now they paid $200 million for it in 2012, and then they spent about $40 million trying to expand the thing. And unfortunately, and I say this with a great deal of respect, our friends at Endeavor Silver are going to be, after this transaction culminates here in the next week or 10 days, Endeavor will be our largest shareholder. We have a lot of synergies with them, and we've been working very well with them in the area. However, people make mistakes. In 2012, I think they arguably paid a little bit too much for this asset. And what they tried to do was to expand it to the point of its inefficiency. So El Cubo is a fantastic asset. The resources that we have there are derived from 19 different veins in this vein cluster that's there. But the veins themselves are very typical Central Mexican epithermal silver and gold veins. They're good grade, but they're narrow. So you'll have 1.5 meter veins. Sometimes they blow out, but not very often. And what Endeavor tried to do, they were trying to look at it as a different type of system and to expand it, to the place that it didn't work very well. So they expanded it to 1,500 tons a day. So the mill, they expanded to 1,500 tons a day. That's what we're buying. But they were also, they expanded how they were mining. And so they were taking 4-meter stopes. When you do that on a 1.5-meter wide vein, all you do is end up getting more dilution. So you can have enough tons to go through the mill. That sounds great. But if a whole bunch of it's just dilution, that's not what you want to be doing. You want to be mining these things, these Central Mexican things, with using narrow vein selective mining. So rather than running this at 1,500 tons a day, we will run it at 750 tons a day. Moreover, we'll be able to draw from material both from El Cubo and El Pinguico. So it'll be a smaller operation, but we think that because we've got both of these mines, these historic mines, that we'll be able to look at this in a much more sustainable kind of mining methodology. I'll just make, sorry, Jim, I'll make just one more point. Mm-hmm. Endeavor's a big company now, right? It's got well over $1 billion market cap. And what Brad Cook told me the first time we started talking about this is that El Cubo just doesn't move the needle for them anymore. Mm-hmm. For Vangold, on the other hand, especially with Pinguico and Cubo working together, it can move the needle a long, long way. And to circle back to your original question, that is something that Mr. Sprott is very capable of identifying.
No, how close are these obviously together? I mean, is this 100 kilometers? What is this? How close are they?
5 kilometers.
5. Oh, okay.
So for our American viewers, then maybe 3.5 miles. Now that's in a straight line. It's about 8 kilometers as the road goes. It's very hilly in this district. So the road kind of, snakes around like that, but it's 8 kilometers by road.
All right. Wow. Hey, Lee.
Sure. I have a few questions. Now you just completed an increase to your private placement, and I'm assuming you're using that for the acquisition as well as the infrastructure refurbishment, if you will. And yeah, I'm curious.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
Oh, I was just going to jump to, if we go to slide, I think it's slide 5 there, Jim.
There we go.
Yeah, then we can talk about the the financing and that sort of thing. So why don't I just jump in, and then you can then I won't be so rude next time. You can actually finish asking a question before I jump in.
Don't worry about it.
You're the guest here, Mr. Anderson. You tell us what we need to know here.
So exactly. This is how the financing looks. This is all standardized to Canadian dollars because we report in Canadian dollars, despite the fact that we're buying the asset in US dollars. So we start out there, go midway through February with a little over $2 million in our treasury. There's some deep in the money warrants that I just count as cash. The financing ended up being 19.95 million Canadian dollars. So as you alluded to, we upsized that a couple of times. We draw in 16.55 million. So I take $500,000 off of that because of all of the necessary closing costs. A silver and gold loan facility, which is $7.5 million US dollars in value. It equates to about 9.5 million Canadian. And that's from a European entity that's going to loan us the $7.5 million. We will repay that in small amounts of silver and gold from production after a 6-month grace period. That leaves us with a total of 28.7 million Canadian dollars. We pay the balance of what we owe Endeavor, which is 8.9, leaves us with just under 20 million Canadian dollars to refurbish the mill, which has been closed for 16 months, and do any development work that's necessary to begin moving material through that mill.
Gotcha. Now there was was it slide 3 that explains the breakdown in terms of shares and cash with Endeavor?
It does. And then on slide 6, then there's a bigger breakdown of, so sort of who's who in the zoo afterwards.
Okay, so as I understand, you're buying a mill, you're buying a lot of equipment, you're buying basically the $40 million worth of equipment that Endeavor has spent at El Cubo for the past couple of years, and you're buying it pretty much at a nice discount, if I'm interpreting this right. You're giving Endeavor some shares, you're giving them some cash, and I read if the gold and silver price goes above certain levels in the next couple of years, Endeavor actually gives you money back. Is that how I understood it?
No, we would pay them money.
Oh, okay.
As contingent bonus payments if the price of gold stays at $2,000 and then $2,200. And when
Okay.
we were doing that negotiation, quite frankly, you know,
What-
this was a long negotiation. We've been talking about this for about 6 months, but when that came, you know, into the negotiating process, that took me about 18 seconds to say yes to. I know in our computer model, in our financial model, what $2,000 and then $2,200 gold, and I think we can imagine silver would then be $32 and $35.
No,
So
it's going to 50. Hey, on Wall Street Silver, we're telling you right now, silver's going to 50. Okay.
And I've put and after a glass of wine or two, I've put $50 into the financial model for silver, and it's, yeah. So paying Endeavor the extra $1 million balloon payments, if you will, didn't take me long to agree to it all.
Yeah. Mr. Ivan, your turn.
Yes, sir. Now, James, we have a question here from our Redditors on Wall Street Silver. They're saying, at what price for gold and silver do you need to make this mine viable? And why didn't Endeavor try to make this mine work?
We already answered half of that. But yeah, the first half of the question.
Yeah. So our third-party engineers are Bear. It's a very well-established, long-lived American mining engineering consultancy. So they've just created a PEA for us. And forgive me, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they would suggest that our break-even numbers are about $1,350 for gold, and I think it's about $1,650 for silver. Oh, and you know, with regards to Endeavor, you know, they were able to work this since they bought it from another Canadian public company called Orico in 2012, and they simply tried to expand the thing bigger than I think that the good Lord made this mine. This can be a very profitable mine so long as you don't ask too much for it from it immediately.
Nice.
Understood. Lee?
So I saw on the map that you have, it looked like 2 other mines there, Petito 1 and 2, or are those part of Pinguico?
They're other pieces of ground that we own.
Okay.
They are prospective insofar as they're in this big mining camp, and there has been some work done on them. There is some vein material that is auriferous on the ground, but they're very grassrootsy. Okay. But the whole land package that we get here, especially the stuff that's adjacent to El Cubo, the big bunch of blue to the west of Pinguico, that's very interesting. Very.
This area right here that I've got my mouse over.
That's right. And I'll tell you what, if like you have to squint when you get old eyes like me, you have to squint. You see the little tiny splash of blue.
Yeah.
That's there. Just north of that. That's attached to the east side. Yeah, bingo. It is a tiny little postage stamp of a claim block. I euphemistically call it the postage stamp claim. Endeavor didn't even know that they own that thing, right? I mean, they got bigger things to do. They got better things to do. But it is attached to our claim, to our Pinguico claim, in a manner that makes it the perfect place to drill for this deep Veta Madre target that we'll be drilling in the months ahead. With all candor, I mean, we've got a lot of different stuff on our plate here right now, so it might take us a number of months to get to that. But that's a very exciting drill target for us.
And so all these areas now, in one of the items that I read about you, the strategy here also is, now that you own the mill and other infrastructure at El Cubo, this is like the only piece of infrastructure like this in the area. So the goal is to, over time, you're not just limited to these 2 mines, Pinguico and El Cubo. You think that you can do something with the stranded assets in the region also to give you longer life? I mean, it wouldn't make sense to develop them independently and someone building a new mill at each of these stranded assets, but through trucking all the material to your location, there's potential. Is that what the strategy is here long term?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You know, I might describe it just slightly differently. I mean, one of the things that impressed me when I first came to Guanajuato was the potential for consolidation in this whole region. There's actually 4 mills that are you know, El Cubo is not operational right now, but you know, it's nearly operational. There's Las Torres, which is immediately adjacent to Penguico. That is owned by Fresnillo, which is the world's largest silver mining company. Endeavor has another mill in the area that's 28 kilometers north of Penguico, where we did our bulk sample at last summer. So it's operational, but you know, small, modest. And then right in the middle of town, right in the middle of this 150,000 person city, mining city, is a mill called Kata, which Great Panther owns, another mid-sized Canadian mining company. So when I looked at it, I just thought, well, this doesn't make any sense. There's 4 mills here. None of them are operating at capacity, right? There has to be good business sense, good business policy to be able to try to consolidate all of these mining assets and run them more efficiently. So I believe that what we're doing here right now with our friends at Endeavor is a first step in that consolidation process.
Understood. Understood. Lee?
Sure. Are you looking at any corporate development initiatives, any M&A activity in the near future, or are you just trying to get this up and running and build the machine?
Well, we've been doing, you know, we've been doing so much so quickly and moving the company ahead so quickly. The very first thing on our plate here has to be refurbishing that mill. And you know, every day that goes by that we're not able to move that process further is a day in September where people are going to be asking me, hey, how come the mill's not running yet? So, you know, we're very cognizant of the fact that any time lost now, you know, just catches up to us later on. So we've got a good team in place, and Endeavor have been very helpful in allowing us to get into the mill to begin that process. We had an X-ray team there, for instance, last week. So they were able to X-ray a whole bunch of the bigger component pieces of the mill, make sure that there's no hairline fractures. You know, and you know, stuff, all stuff that we need to do to be able to make sure that we're ready to start moving material through that mill come September.
Is that your time frame for being up and running, is September? I mean, you want to get all your machinery and everything else?
I keep saying it over and over and over and over again internally here at Vangold. So if anybody doesn't get it, right, they'll be thrown off the bus at some point. Yes, September 1st, that's when we're putting material through. I mean, is it achievable? I think it's, you know, in the modern world, unless you set deadlines for stuff, you know, nothing's achievable. I mean, nothing ever happens, right? So that's a James Anderson imposed deadline, and we'll see how well we do going forward.
My next question is, I read in my preparation for today, I read one study that a conservative study was that they believe once you're fully up and running and optimized, we're going to see an estimate of about 14,000 ounces of gold per year. I think it was 13,900 ounces of gold, and up to 1 million ounces of silver per year on a 7-year mine life. Is that still the plan? I don't know how old that estimate is or what you're currently looking at.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good estimate. I think that's derived from some of the numbers that we put out from our Bear PEA. So we put sort of a synopsis of all of those numbers from the preliminary economic assessment that Bear wrote for us a couple of weeks ago, and that report will go final here in just the next week or two, and so that'll be up on you know, the worldwide international webs, and people can download it. So it'll go up on the system in Canada called CDAR, and they'll be able to have a look at it.
Gotcha.
And it'll go up on our website as well, for that matter.
And yeah, we'll share it with our members also on Wall Street Silver, and maybe we'll talk to you again in a month or so, and we can update and see how we're doing at that point. What is the current reserve estimate you're looking at, and is that conservative? What are we talking about? Indicated, measured, or are we talking inferred? What are we talking about in terms of total reserves and mine life here?
Yeah, so if you go to slide 8 on your slide deck there, these are the numbers that Bear came up with. independent third-party engineering team. So, we're not supposed to put indicated and inferred resources together in one group. So we'll talk about them separately, but there's 7 million indicated plus 20 million inferred. You'll notice that all of those, or the vast majority, I mean, it's 90% of the resources that we've got here come from El Cubo. So at Pinguico, there's a surface stockpile of material that's very easily, it was waste 100 years ago, but it's got silver and gold in it. And we proved that last year when we did a bulk sample with that material. But that's really all of the material that Bear Dolbear gave us credit for at Pinguico. They are a conservative engineering house, and they told us, well, you haven't sampled this, you need more metallurgy done there, you got to do this. So that's about all that they gave us credit for at Pinguico. At El Cubo, on the other hand, there's a fair bit of this material, although on this study, it makes it only into the indicated column, but there's a fair bit of it that is readily available to put through the mill. Some of it was blasted and wasn't mucked out of the stope by Endeavour when they were closing the thing down in November of 2019. So that stuff that is absolutely immediately, the lowest hanging fruit of all low hanging fruit that can go through the mill, on September 1st.
Yeah,
and,
you don't have to mine this. It's just ready to be picked up and put in a truck and dumped at the mill, huh?
That's exactly right. And so moving forward from that, there's a lot of inferred material that's at El Cubo. Maybe we have to drift over 100 meters or extend a ramp down 50 meters, or maybe we've got to put a few more drill holes into it. But we know where it is. It's good grade. As I mentioned, they've been mining here for 200 years. It's not like this is going to run out of ore anytime soon. We just have to be able to mine it at an effective rate. And we think that effective rate for us is going to be about 750 tons a day, because we've got all kinds of different sources to be able to source material from, places to source material from.
All right. Lee or Ivan, any more?
I have a question for, how did you get Eric Sprott how did you convince him to invest into the company?
Well, Mr. Sprott looks at a lot of different deals. He's invested in a lot of different companies. So, I would hate to put words into Eric's mouth, but since he asked me, I think he looks at a situation like this, and I think he looks at the market cap, and he says, well, okay, what's the jurisdiction? It's in Guanajuato. This is one of the most famed silver mining camps in the whole world, and in the New World for the last 480 years. So, that's very important. And I think that he looks at it and says, can these guys really restart this mine and get some cash flow and kickstart the thing? Yeah. It's not like we have to build a mill, right? I mean, that's tricky these days.
That's the tough part.
That's right. That's right. The mill needs some tender loving care, right? We have to replace filters and hoses and belts and electrical components, but all of the major component pieces are there. I like to tell people it's like buying a 20-year-old Pontiac, right? If it's been sitting in the garage and I say Pontiac because this mill was never a Mercedes. Okay, so if it's sitting in the garage for 16 months, you're going to want to give it a tune-up and an oil change, and probably change the tires before you take it out on the highway. Very similar to what we need to do, but all the component pieces are there. The Pontiac exists. We don't have to go and buy a new car. So I mean, I think Eric's looked at the situation. He can see that. And he also knows the history of the mines and of the region, right? The word prolific is always used in the mining business, to the point of nausea. But I mean, this is a famous mining camp, and it will be a famous mining camp for hundreds of more years.
Yeah, I people tend to think, oh, well, this place has already been mined out if they've been mining for 200 years. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is it was mined with more crude techniques 100 years ago, and they just had no idea of doing some of the deep underground testing that we can do from the surface just to spot things that they had no idea about 100 years ago when this place was being mined actively. And so I guess what I'm trying to understand here is you think there's a lot still there that they missed 100 years ago now with current techniques, correct?
Yeah, and I think they missed it 100 years ago, but I'll bet that they missed it 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
You know, the land package that we've got has not ever really seen a concentrated.
Some of this is virgin territory that no one's really taken a hard look at. Yeah, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and you can use geophysical tools and geochemical tools that maybe weren't available even 20 years ago. But then the other thing is just the price of the metals. I mean, today's price of metals is not the price of metals from 100 years ago. And the best way to illustrate that is the waste pile, the waste dump that exists at Penguico. They thought it was junk. They were just going to leave it there.
It made no sense at $4 silver, but it makes a heck of a lot of sense at $25 silver.
Yeah, that's right. And although obviously through inflation and currency destruction, the prices are different, they were dealing with 57-cent silver. You know, in the 1909 annual report for the Penguico Mines Company. So
go ahead.
So all of that material sits on the ground. We come by and take 1,000 tons to the mill last year. We truck it 28 kilometers to Bolañitos because obviously El Cubo is closed and wasn't available to us. And even paying all of the charges and the lack of scalability that 1,000 tons does, we still made a ham sandwich on it. So owning our own mill way closer, we will be able to make money from stuff that they thought was waste 100 years ago.
And even a year ago, when, prior to coronavirus, when silver was down around, below 18, it played around even in the $14, $15 area, this deal wouldn't have made sense. But it makes sense. It makes a heck of a lot of sense today at 25, correct?
Well, that's right. I mean, when you've got the warm breeze of a bull market behind you, people can look pretty smart, and I'm not above trying to make Vangold look smart by putting itself in the way of a very powerful bull market. So yeah, the higher prices, 100%. I mean, all of our financial modeling is done at about $18 silver. But if we're reaping $25, $6, and $7 silver, yeah. The black ink that develops on the bottom line is impressive.
James, you got to start thinking $40 silver. Okay. I never want to hear 25 from you again. $40 silver.
James, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It sounds like you've done a lot of key personnel hires. I'd like you to tell the audience the story of your personnel down there.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, my key teammates in Mexico are a father and son engineering team. Surname is Dorado. So there's Gerardo, he's the father. Hernan is the son. Hernan's about 40. Hernan has worked all over the world. He's worked in Canada and Australia and throughout Latin America. Wow. He will become our chief operating officer of this operation within just the next few weeks. Gerardo, a little different. He's been in the mining business for 44 years, all in Mexico, all in different places. Both of them are graduates of the University of Guanajuato, which has a storied and famous mining school attached to it. So those guys are great. Hernan and I have become, great friends. And I say Hernan because his English is better and my Spanish is so-so. So when Gerardo and I are together in one room, we can communicate pretty good. On Skype, it kind of breaks down a little bit. But Hernan and I talk every couple of days, and they are some of the best partners that I've had in this business. One fellow who we've managed to attract just recently, and good projects attract good people. Sometimes people think it's the other way around. It's not. Good projects attract good people. And when we announced the El Cubo transaction and how that was going to transform Vangold, what we've managed to do is to attract Ramon Davila to our advisory board. And Ramon, in my estimation, has the best CV in Mexican mining. So Ramon was the chief operating officer of First Majestic, which is obviously hugely successful in Mexico. And, you know, success has many fathers, right? You know, it wasn't just Ramon working in a vacuum, but Ramon was chief operating officer while that company went from 2 employees to 4,000.
Wow.
He was chief operating officer while that company went from 0 production to 12 million ounces of silver production per year. In 2016, when Ramon left as chief operating officer of that company, he took a political job as the economy minister of the state of Durango in Mexico. And I like to tell people that, like every good miner, after 4 years in politics, you want to get back into the mining business. So he wants to do that, and you know, we're going to try and make Ramon as embedded in Vangold as possible. Ramon and Gerardo went to school together at the University of Guanajuato 40 years ago. So they've been friends. Their careers, you know, have paralleled each other over that time. Hernan calls him uncle, right? So to be able to have that kind of bond, to be able to bring somebody like Mr. Davila into our company, that's really important. I guess I'll just say one other thing about that. This is going to be the most Mexican mining exploration and production story that there is. There's a lot of companies doing business in Mexico where there is a glass ceiling. All of the excellent Mexican mining engineers can come to here, but everybody above that ceiling are Canadians, Americans, and Australians. And we will not have that situation.
Understood. Hey, one other question. You know, Mexico has a reputation in some areas of being a dangerous place with a lot of cartel type of activity. Is that an issue in this location? What's the safety situation for your people operating there on the ground?
So again, you know, lots of people ask about that. First of all, when that question is asked of most mining CEOs who are doing business in Mexico, the standard answer is, "Oh, not in our area. No. That happens somewhere else. That's a problem somewhere else." The reality is that there's cartel activity. There's drug cartel activity. I prefer to call them the mafia, because I think that's a more better English description of what they are. But there's that activity in every square inch of Mexico. That's just a truism. However, if you're in the mining business, there's not very much overlap between them and what we do. I mean, they don't want to get in the way of healthy mining.
You guys provide a lot of jobs to the local communities. I would think the communities are supportive and would apply pressure on the cartels to, hey, don't mess this up. These are our jobs. Is that some of what's going on there?
The cartel guys, they got other stuff to do. They got business to do, right? I mean, I'm not condoning that business or anything like that, but they're doing other stuff. And if you look at the number of times that, you know, mostly Canadian, but Canadian, Australian, Mexican, American mining companies have been interfered with over the last 20 years, 25 years by the cartels, you can count it on one hand.
Okay.
So it just doesn't happen. And then, you know, to your point about the supportive community, this is a mining community. I was telling Ivan that I grew up in Edmonton, where he lives, but I was born in Timmins, Ontario, which is a great Canadian mining community. Guanajuato is a little bit like that, except the weather's better and the buildings are prettier. There's 150,000 people who live there, and it is a mining community. Everybody knows the mines are there. They love the mines. Some of the old mines that are right downtown in Guanajuato, they've been there for 450 years. So it's a mining community, and so we don't have to come there and kind of beg for permission to do our business and to do our work. The community says, yeah, excellent. You know, my cousin's an engineer. My brother, is a laborer and worked in the mines. He needs he needs work. Great, let's do it. So it's that kind of support that you get.
Gotcha. Well,
I have one quick question before we wrap it up. The 1909 annual report, is it possible for you to give us like a PDF or something? Because I think that would be great to post on the forum.
The short answer is yes. I can send that to you right now. I got it up on my computer, and you can if we're still recording, if you want to go back to the
the slide, or hold on,
slide to show people. And while you're doing that, Jim, I'll set it up for you. Like the image that you're about to see, which has kind of become a talisman for Vangold, right?
Your stock's up 12% today. If you didn't know, just okay.
I try not to pay too much attention.
I was checking while. So which slide should I go to?
This is it. So the choo-choo train. This is the Vangold choo-choo train, is what I like to tell people. So get on board as we're leaving the station. But this image is from the 1909 annual report of the Penguico Mines Company, which was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And the way that came about, in 1906, there were two companies. One was a British company and one was an American company, and they were ostensibly mining two halves of the same epithermal system. And they were cooperating with a number of different initiatives. And then finally they figured out, hey, what would be a good idea is if we merged these two companies. So that was done in 1906. And what you're looking at is the image from the 1909 annual report. The other thing that we've got, Lee, is the just like today, when a new mining company was listed on the stock exchange, the stock exchange wanted geological reports to support the new entity being listed on the exchange. So we've got a series of 8 different geological reports that were written in 1906 about Penguico, and I can tell you they are excellent. They are not the drab, dull geological mining reports of today. They are exciting, and just
please send those too.
Okay, we will do.
It's kind of I'll link them, and the posts that we do on Wall Street Silver for our members, just to show them. Most people probably aren't, but some people care about that stuff, and I do, so I'm going to share it. So
they're fascinating. And like I say, just really, really well written. And a lot of the things that we're exploring, that we're looking at, our understanding of the geological situation at Penguico was exactly theirs. I mean, these are really smart guys, mostly American engineers and metallurgists who write the reports. But the whole interconnection of the Veta Madre, that's the mother vein, this 30-kilometer long structure that dips underneath our property, how that is coming towards our property and how it's likely to exist at Penguico, it's exactly our understanding today as well.
Well, this has been great. It's been very informative.
Yes.
I know Eric Sprott's behind you, so I know he's done his due diligence, which, for a lot of us who are not experts at that level, having a guy like Eric Sprott get on board, there's a lot of silver mining development companies that probably should be avoided. But when you see guys like Sprott getting behind your company, that's a pretty decent endorsement, which puts it removes a lot of question marks in my mind personally. I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same. But thank you very much for joining us today, Mr. Anderson. And if you I know you're going to be busy the next 6 months, but if we can, I'm sure a lot of our members want to hear back from you. If we can find some time in the next few months,
yes,
we'll update the story with you as things develop and you get more drill results, and as you change some filters at the mine and things are working, let us know what's going on.
Okay, that sounds awesome. There's a lot of things that will be changing that we can update your viewers on in the next little while. But by last count, I think I've got 8 news releases that are going to be coming to the fore within the next 8 weeks or so. So there's
shoot them over to us, and we'll it's easy enough for us to put a post on Wall Street Silver or on our Twitter accounts to blast out to anyone who cares.
Fantastic. Okay, I appreciate it, guys. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much from the Wall Street Silver community. James Anderson from Vangold. Thank you, Lee Justo and Jim Lewis. Yeah, what?
One last question. You're a silver miner. Or is there any talk of changing it to Van Silver or something? You're not a silver miner unless silver's in the name.
We are going to change the name. I have a
Uh-huh.
love-hate relationship with the name Vangold, and we are going to change the name. And the board of directors continues to arm wrestle a little bit about what that's going to be, but I think I know what it is. And
Okay. Will you promise to share it with us first?
Yes.
You could do the big reveal here.
yes, we will.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Take care, James.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, take care,
Goodbye.
gentlemen.